because it's cool.
Yeah.
It's like one of the most exciting parts of the game. Which this game is extremely exciting on so many levels. But, like, do you really want to just take the ball out of the end line and try to clear it? Like, it's like, oh, come on.
Welcome back to another episode of the Nothing Near Post Show. On the mic, obviously, you got Silbs. Looking forward to this week's episode. We got 4 quarters, line drills, and we've got a great interview with head coach John Basti of the Sacred Heart Pioneers. Awesome interview. Don't miss that. But first, jumping into line drills here. Shout out to Hobart Hockey for their 3rd straight national title. All right, they beat a very good Utica University team in OT 2-1 over the weekend. And what may have been even more impressive is they did it in Utica's home barn, the Nexus Center. Really cool. 3 out of the 4 Final Four teams in Division III were upstate teams: SUNY Geneseo, Utica, and Hobart, with the 4th being Curry College. But it was Hobart for a 3rd straight time winning their national title. It was an awesome game, but the highlight was both goalies. Okay, we know we love goalies here on Nothing Near Post. And it's for the Utica Pioneers. Ryan Piros was incredible, 44 saves and a 95.7 save percentage. He kept Utica alive pretty much from 10 minutes left in the first period through OT. He was incredible. But his counterpart, Damon Beaver for Hobart, may not have seen the same volume of shots, but the saves he made to keep his team in it, even after going down 1-0, were nothing short of spectacular. He had 39 saves of his own with a 97.5% save percentage, and he had multiple saves of the eye-popping variety. Shout out to Beaver. Beaver became became Hobart's all-time leading goaltender in wins for the hockey program. So shout out to Damon Beaver there. Welcome to the club, bud. Sticking with hockey. The Denver University hockey social media team has a warrant out for their arrest on assault charges. No, not real assault charges. They sent a tweet out about DU's 3-1 win over Boston College that read, quote, "We are shipping them back to Boston." That's assault, brother. Assault aside, that's a great tweet. Even better tweet, someone quote tweeted it and said, "How rude to send them back to a city they aren't even from." Which is true, because Boston College is in Chestnut Hill, posers. But incredible work on the internet. The internet's undefeated, as we know. But turning over to basketball, in March Madness, we saw perfect chalk in the men's bracket. Duke continues to surprise me the way that they're rolling people. They're the last ACC team standing. Incredible. And have been the last ACC team standing since, I believe, after the first round, when there was more Patinos coaching in the NCAA tournament than ACC teams playing. But on the women's side, you got 3 out of the 4 number 1 seeds making it the Final Four down in Tampa. But after the Juju injury for USC, the Trojans, UConn was actually favored as a 2 seed over USC, the 1 seed, by 14.5 points in their 1-2 matchup. So I'm not calling that an upset by any means, and actually more leaning towards calling both Final Four straight chalk. And for those curious, UConn bettors got bit by the hook as the Huskies beat the Trojans by 14. Personally, I think the chalkiness we've seen throughout is based mostly on the transfer portal and NIL money impacting rosters. And that might seem obvious, but as Ovechkin has come to say, bands will make you dance, and I don't see it slowing down anytime soon. The teams that have the money to spend are going to attract the best talent, and those teams are usually the bigger schools, more relevant schools, and those schools are going to continue to separate themselves. So that's all we got for line drills. Let's kick it over to 4 quarters. First quarter. We no longer have an undefeated team in Division I men's lacrosse. The Fairfield Stags lose their first game of the year The defeat coming at the hands of CAA conference foe, led by Coach Gallardi, the Stony Brook Seawolves. And to be honest, I did not see the overhitting in this game, but both offenses showed up to play. Seawolves protected Lavalle Stadium with a 17-16 win. They had 10 different goal scorers, but it was rookie Kean McCoy from Island Tree High School who led the way with a 3-3 day. By far the best of his rookie campaign. Classmate and fellow rookie Brendan Marino also potted a hattie for the Seawolves. And Marino is the rare, and apologies for the mispronunciation, but Otonobi, Ontario native, who went to the Hun School in New Jersey for 3 years prior to Stony Brook. How does Coach Gallardi find these guys, man? Island Tree High School and Ontario native from the Hun. I'll tell you how Coach G finds him. He's a relentless recruiter and an absolute stud. Great win for the Wolves, Coach G and his staff. Their reward, you ask? An angry ass-kicking chicken squad in Newark, Delaware. Buckle up for that one. But as for Fairfield, you have to give flowers to Julian Radicic. He continued his menacing ways with 4 caused turnovers and 6 ground balls on Saturday. The sophomore from Ridgewood, New Jersey, by way of Del Barton, shout out Coach Kovalchuk and Coach Liotti, has been credited with 30 caused turnovers this year. Radicic, 30 caused turnovers, which is actually 2 more than the 28 ground balls he's been credited with. I can't imagine there's another defender in lacrosse at any level that has finished the year with more caused turnovers than ground balls, but Radicic is in the hunt. That'd be an incredible stat line. We got to get Radicic on the pod. So if anybody knows him, we'll send him over a DM. But if you know him, let him know we're reaching out. We want to get him on. Jumping into the second quarter here, from one high-scoring game to a low-scoring game. And no, I'm not talking about the Lehigh 7-3 win over Loyola that resembled more of a Long Island Class B championship game at Hofstra without shot clocks than a college game in 2025. I'm talking about the 10-9 OT win for the Villanova Wildcats. Meow! On the road at Mile High Peter Barton Stadium over the Denver Pioneers. This seemed like the classic letdown spot for the Pios and a hungry conference opponent desperate for a win in the Wildcats. Yes, both of those things turned out to be true, but in reality, Nova's defense, led by ninth-year defensive coordinator and Wesley College Athletics Hall of Famer Chris Miller, has found a way to stifle the Denver Pioneers seemingly better than anyone else in the country as of late. The last 3 meetings between the Pios and the Cats, Denver has scored exactly 9 goals. Same Denver offense that just put up, 13 against Duke? 3 times in a row, Coach Miller and his squad has held the Pios to 9 goals. Impressive stuff. We obviously got the game winner from Colin Mishner, who hit the fans with a night-night celebration after he popped his lid, which that night-night celebration I'm coining as the cat nap in this situation. And of note, if you watch the film of the celebration, Michner and the fellas run by the stands as he's celebrating. And if you watch closely, you'll see a mom either fall out of the stands or, as a loyal listener from Ohio pointed out, she could have been intentionally jumping out of the stands. But either way, she didn't land the dismount, and she got trampled by the team as she landed right amongst the fellas in their celebration flyby of the stands. Just incredible stuff. We need no context lacrosse on that one. But to get there, the defense for Villanova had to play stout. The Mishner family had to be standouts. Gavin Mishner had 2 goals, and Colin Mishner was 2 and 3 on the day, including obviously the game winner, which was an individual effort from the low wing. But the effort of 2 guys can't be overlooked. All right, and 2 guys I want to shout out. Both. The first one being senior Dan Martin from Wall Township, New Jersey, and rookie Daniel Flame from Summit, New Jersey. No disrespect, Daniel, for the pronunciation, but Daniel Flame from Summit, New Jersey, found the back of the net for their first goals this season. And in a one-goal game, secondary scoring is critical, absolutely critical. So shout out to the Daniels. NNP salutes you, the Villanova Daniels. Halftime here. This could be brought to you by your brand or your friend's brand, and the NNP community is a loyal one driving business forward. Let us know if you want to take your brand to the next level with a sponsorship deal. Hit us up in the DMs. Third quarter here. Huge weekend for Catholic universities, except for BC hockey. Sorry, fellas, as my friend Coach Finn once said to a recruit's parent who learned they were a BC alum, the parent was, during a campus tour. He said to her, and I quote, "It's okay. Not everyone can go to BU." Go Dogs, baby. Go Dogs. Just an incredible quote from Coach Finn to a parent of a recruit that we are walking around campus. But big time trip to St. Louis for the Frozen Four for Coach Pandolfo and the BU Terriers. And quickly, a wild stat on Coach Pandolfo. He's 10-0 in NCAA regional games as a player and a coach. That is just diabolical. All right. On the lacrosse field, though, the Catholics who impressed were obviously Villanova, got the win, which we already covered. Canisius got the upset win over the Manhattan Jaspers. Iona got their first conference win in program history with a 12-8 win over Quinnipiac. Lemoyne moved to 3-0 in the NEC with a win over their Catholic brethren, Detroit Mercy. And stick taps to the Lemoyne Dolphins, leading the NEC right now at 3-0. Sacred Heart got an OT win over Marist, and I cannot wait for you to hear from Coach Basti in this week's interview. But the two results I want to key in on are Georgetown snuck by their brother in God, the Providence Friars, 14-13, and the Notre Dame Fighting Irish doubled up the Duke Blue Devils, 14-7. Why are we keying in on these two games? Because NNP is officially putting Duke and Georgetown on fraud alert. Duke has laid back-to-back eggs, especially offensively, and they still have 3 conference games left to play and a non-conference game against BU this weekend in Boston. What's happened to the Duke offense? It's a great question. They've scored 13 total goals in their last 2 games. McAdory is hot and cold on the score sheet, but he's not getting much help. Sophomore Ben Johnston is doing what he can, posting a 17-5 campaign so far, as is Eric Maliver, leading the team with a balanced line of 22-22. Yes, Max Sloat went off against Providence and Richmond for a combined 8 goals and 3 assists, but he was blanked against Denver on 8 shots and scored once against Notre Dame on 6 shots. Off-ball presence, Luke Graham has been streaky at best. In a 4-game stretch from February 28th to March 12th, he scored 12 goals. But in the Michigan game prior to this stretch, he was blanked, and then blanked again at Richmond and Denver before finding the back of the net twice against Notre Dame, one of which was in garbage time to make the score 14-6. So do with that what you will. But the question becomes, where can you find Duke scoring in their final 4 games? Luke Graham needs Dodgers to draw slides to be the most effective. McAdory needs someone to take some attention away from him so he can find some short dodges on the backside. Maliver needs to be the alpha attackman he has been touted to be since coming out of high school. And the supporting cast needs to elevate their game. But I truly believe something else needs to happen. Coach Forty needs to figure out what his guys' strengths are and play and coach to them. There hasn't seemed to be an identity for this team, and everyone seems to be looking around for something to grasp onto. One guy I think that has it in him and is capable of adding some firepower to that offense is Boston native Jack Papendick. He's got it. He's capable. Excited to see what he can do down the stretch in the ACC for sure. As for Georgetown, yeah, they're 6-3, but I'd argue they don't really have a true quote, quality win. Arguably, the two best results they have are both losses, playing Notre Dame to an 11-9 loss and Richmond to a 13-12 loss. And I hate to dog Providence, but if you want to make a run in May, you can't beat the Friars by a goal in D.C. at home. Aiden Carroll is doing what he can, posting a 20-6 stat line so far through 9 games. Same with Fulton Bayman, 19-16. With every game being a multi-point game or more, which is impressive. But yeah, that's crazy. Read that back. With every game being a multi-point game or more for Fulton Bayman. Here's the issue, in my opinion. They're 4 for 19 on EMO, which puts them 63rd out of 74 in the country. Despite this, they're still third in the Big East in goals per game, but I'll say it until I'm blue in the face. Big games and tight games usually come down to special teams. And if you aren't converting on EMO, you're backing yourself into a corner. They still have the defense and the goalie to win the Big East. But if they can do that, and that's a big if, and yes, I think that's their only way into the NCAA tournament, I don't see them putting a scare into anyone. But let's do this live. I want to look at it. So I say 4 for 19, a 2-goal loss to Notre Dame and a 1-goal loss to Richmond. Let's see what their extra man unit did in those games. First, looking at the Notre Dame game, extra man went 1 for 3 and a 2-goal loss. In the Richmond game, they went 1 for 2. So not as terrible as the numbers would let you think in those tight games, but still down the stretch, 4 for 19 isn't going to get it done. Let's kick it to the fourth quarter here. Last and final one. Going to do something a little different, all right? We're going to pose a question to a couple guys in the lacrosse world and see what their answer is. The question is, which position is harder to be good at? Goalie or D-midi? Let's give our first longtime listener a ring here.
Yo.
Is this the longtime listener of the Nothing Near Post show?
Yeah.
Wow.
What's going on, man?
Wow, it's great to connect. All right, we're in the fourth quarter here of this week's pod, and wanted to pose a question to you.
Let's hear it.
All right, here's the question. The question is, which position on the lacrosse field is it harder to be good at? Goalie or defensive midfielder?
Oh, man. Come on, dude. My first appearance, I couldn't get a layup.
No, there ain't no such thing as a layup in this sport, just a tap in.
Oh, man. That's a tough one. They're very different, right? So goalie or D-mid, obviously a very significant, very different skill set. I have my experience in the cage, and this might be just my own experience, but I could never play D-mid. It would be an absolute non-starter for me to ever go outside of my little circle down there, 15 yards from the end line. And I think the same could be said about some goalies and not about others, right? Some are super athletic and they can get out there, and so like not to pigeonhole, but like Scotty Rogers, phenomenal goalie, one of the best to ever play, probably wasn't going to play D-mid. So there's that, right? But I think that, there's also like a leadership capability and a courage capability that comes into play with playing goalie.
Leadership, huh? We're going leadership. I love it.
Well, yeah, I'm just, I'm talking about my own experiences. I'm a phenomenal leader. But even like the courage, and like not to take away from a defensive midfielder, like not to say that they're less courageous or that they lack courage, but I think like it takes a lot of courage and to get into that net, and some people don't have that.
Sure. I'll tell you what takes courage. Approaching putting your nose on the football, as we like to say, and approaching the head of the stick to block a shot. That certainly takes courage.
Yeah, by all means. But like, let's be serious. you might get 2 or 3 of those a game as a D midi. You're getting 25 of those as a game as a goalie. But no, that's I'm getting off track here, right? What's more difficult? I would unequivocally say defensive midfield. The athleticism and kind of knowing where to where to be all 6 spots defensively. Just from an athletic standpoint, I don't think anything touches defensive midfield, especially doing it with a short stick.
And coming from a former goalie, that's some high praise for what Coach Kester calls the have-nots. So, all right. No, I appreciate that insight. Certainly some good stuff right there, and appreciate you even more for being a long-time listener of the Nothing Near Post Show.
Yeah, long-time listener, first-time caller, so I appreciate the opportunity here. What about you? Do you have a perspective on it?
I do. I align with you. I agree. I think it is much harder to be a great defensive midfielder than it is to be a great goalie. I think both are very difficult positions, hence the question. But I agree, the athleticism that it takes to guard in that much space with a short stick, when we ask people to be great at that position with a 6-foot pole, and then we take that away and we ask a ton of those guys, and you add in the fact that D-middies in today's day and age are actually dodged on 95% of the time, right? And not only are they initiated on, but their offensive coordinators are doing everything they can to set themselves up where on the backside they can get a short approach from a short stick. And that's a nearly impossible task. And you make a great point. The ability to understand the defense from all 6 spots, slide, recover, on ball direction, and then to take it another layer, right? Like, you got to be able to clear the rock too. First, get it off the carpet. You've got to have the poise and the skill and the cojones to pick the ball up in a tough scrum and then get it up and out. You've got to be a part of that clearing scheme. You've got to be able to throw the pop pass. You've got to be able to catch the pop pass. You've got to be able to zip one into a tight window. Whereas a goalie, I think sometimes we say a great goalie has a great stick, but other goalies who are great ball stoppers, we give them a little leeway if their stick work isn't where it needs to be.
Yeah. Yeah, and to your point, too, that like they're trying to do all that after being the target defender for an entire possession. And it's like, oh, we just went against your other short stick. We'll just throw it back to this short stick and go against him. And it's like, damn, when am I going to get a break here? When are they going to dodge against the pole? And they don't want to.
Don't want to. I think the throwback, I think there's a young offensive coordinator out there who calls it right back.
Yeah. That's a good one. Hey, I just thought of this. It'd be another good topic for you to dive into is the development of the O-mid position and D-mid positions, how they became independent of one another in the last, 10 or 20 years when we used to have two-way middies. When those guys, and, I'm actually sitting here reading a Mac Brown book and talking about the old days of Texas back in like the 30s, 40s, and 50s when they had guys playing on both sides of the ball. And so they had to learn, 11 positions on each side. Those middies used to have to know every offensive set, every defensive set, and do it for 3 or 4 minutes up and down the field at a time. So it's another good topic to dive into, I think.
All right, maybe we'll have to kick it to next week and make you a regular on this show. Well, first-time caller, long-time listener, we appreciate you chiming in on the D-Midi versus goalie conversation.
Awesome.
We'll catch you next week.
All right, I appreciate the opportunity. Have a good one. Nothing near post. Rule number 1, never forget.
Never forget.
See ya. Hello?
Hey, is this a long-time listener of the Nothing Near Post show?
Oh, yeah. Long time, first time.
All right. Well, hey, we've got a question we're throwing out there to long-time listeners. We're looking for a little bit of feedback. See what they think of the question.
Okay.
Question is, more difficult position to be great at on the lacrosse field, goalie or D-midi?
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, as a goalie, my natural inclination is to obviously say goalie. However, I think it'd be a fair counterpoint to say how many great short stick D-mids are there who are like locked down, like a Danny Logan, as opposed to like how many great goalies are there. I mean, I would still go with goalie, but short stick D mid's a good answer.
I like that. I like the way that you looked at that. The scarcity of the great D middies versus the scarcity of the great goalies. What do you think makes what do you think makes a goalie great?
Communication, obviously great hand-eye coordination, and I think really knowing the game, how you can move the defense to where you want them and communicate them to give up the shots you want to see and get the ball up the field.
Communication and leadership. All right, so we're still going goalie, even though we think there are less great D middies out there.
That is correct.
All right. Well, we appreciate you being a Nothing Near Post Show listener. We'll catch you on the next one.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go Mets. We're gonna win this game in the 11th.
Man, we got a Met fan looking to win a game in the 11th.
Coach, how we doing?
Doing well. As a longtime Nothing Near Post Show listener, we wanted to give you a ring and ask you a question, and it's this week's question on the pod. So we're trying to get people's feedback. Here's the question. All right.
Let's do it.
Question is, which position on the lacrosse field is harder to be great at? Goaltender or D-midi?
Physically, D-midi. Mentally, goalie. And as much as I love playing defensive midfield, I have to go with goalie.
Wow. Okay. Why?
Yeah.
Other than sort of you're saying mentally versus physically, why is goalie harder to be great at?
You are the back of the defense. You must know everything that's going on the field at all times. You are in charge of making sure that everyone else is doing their job on top of doing your job to the best of your ability.
I can get on board with that.
I mean, if you are a defensive midfielder and you get beat to the wrong spot 50% of the time, all right, we can slide, we can make up for it. If you're a goalie and you're making, 50% of the saves that you should? Not very good. 50% of the saves that you shouldn't? All right, hey, we can live with that. But you have to be on it at all times, on top of everybody, know the slide package, see what's coming before everyone else on the field does, and make sure that all 7 guys, because we are a 7-man unit, are on the same page.
I can get behind that take.
Just because you were a goalie.
I don't know about that. I lean the other way. I had a few callers. We've been going back and forth on it. It's been interesting to hear their takes, but yeah, I go back and forth on it. I'm saying D mid's harder. I think about the great D mids that come to mind, and there's less of them than the great goalies that come to mind. So I'm going from it in a scarcity scenario.
So if we talk about a great D-midi, do you stand out or do you not recognize them?
Oh, you don't recognize them. That's what makes them great.
Maybe that's why there's not as many great defensive midfielders as great goaltenders.
Ooh, interesting take.
I had to throw a little wrench in that one.
Interesting take. Well, we appreciate you jumping on the Nothing Near Post show here. Excited to keep this bit going, and hopefully we'll talk to you next week with whatever the question is when it comes up.
Absolutely, Coach. Thank you for having me, and the Hulk will never die.
The Hulk will never die. You heard it here first.
What's up?
Hey, this is the Nothing Near Post show, Colin. We've seen that you've been a long-time listener. We've got a question for you.
Oh boy.
We want to put you on the pod this week. Question of the week: what is a harder position to be great at on the lacrosse field? Goalie or defensive midfielder?
Oh, as a former defensive midfielder and never goalie, I would still say goalie.
Any reasoning?
To be great.
Any reasoning?
Yeah, I think the strength of your overall defense, I guess you could say that about both. No, goalie's so much harder.
What if I said this, though? There's probably a larger group of people that are considered great goalies than people that are considered great defensive midfielders. So you look at the scarcity of it.
I would say, though, that the defensive midfield, like, specialized position is not necessarily, like, as old. Or it hasn't been around as long as the goalie.
Ah. So we're saying that because it hasn't been around as long, there hasn't been as many people to be considered great.
I would say that. Like, who are your top? Give me your top 3 defensive midfielders of all time.
Ooh. Personally, the first 2 that come to mind is probably 2 current ones. It'd be Chet Comizio and Danny Logan.
Recency bias.
Yeah, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. You put me on the spot. I like that question, though. Who else? Who do you got besides yourself?
I mean, is Matt Abbott a D-Midi?
Yes.
Okay, Matt Abbott.
I would.
Matt Abbott is. I think Matt Abbott's one of the best two-way midfielders of all time, but he is an elite defensive midfielder.
Love that. I love that. That's going into the vault and a great call.
I've tweeted it before, but he's your favorite lacrosse player's favorite lacrosse player.
Yes. So then if there aren't that many Matt Abbotts out there, why is defensive midfielder not as hard to be great at compared to goalie?
Oh, I think there's a lot of reasons for that. I don't think that. I think part of it is in the past, like strictly offensive-minded midfielders, like the talent level has gotten so much better recently, but it used to not be. They used to be like, you could have 2 ball movers on great teams on a midfield line.
Sure.
So I think you could be the second D-Midi and be like just hiding out there.
Ooh. I mean, today's day and age, everybody's dodging the short stick every chance they get, and the offense coordinators are finding ways to set you up for a short stick approach on the backside too. So I don't know about hiding anymore.
That's what I said nowadays, yeah. But it used to be, I don't think it was that big of a deal.
All right.
I don't know. I want to stand up for the D-Middies, but I also don't. I just think, having never played goalie, I just don't. I don't know. I think you're responsible for so much more than a D-Midi is.
And with come responsibility, with great responsibility comes great responsibility. Is that how the saying goes?
Oh man, just look at that, man. Yeah, something like that. Great power.
With great power comes great responsibility. All right. Well, hey, we appreciate you for being a long-time Nothing Near Post Show listener. Maybe we'll catch you next week with next week's question.
All right, sounds good.
Pretty cool fourth quarter segment there. Shout out to all those long-time Nothing Near Post Show listeners for their input on the question of the week being, which position is harder to be great at? One thing that I want to highlight, and I think it's really interesting, guys that were goalies picked defensive midfield being the harder position to be great at. Guys that weren't goalies picked goalie as the harder position to be great at. Kind of a cool way to kind of break things down. I thought it was interesting it played out that way. Sound off in the comments. Let us know what you think for that question, and maybe we'll keep that segment going. All right, here we are. Excited to have another guest on the Nothing Near Post Show. Excited to introduce a face-off guru, a 2-time MAC champion as a player, a 2-time Little East champion as a coach, a 2-time ECAC champion as a coach, an American East champion as a coach, the 2024 MAC Coach of the Year, a MAC regular season champ and a postseason champ, and the father of 2 sons, Coach John Basti of the Sacred Heart University Pioneers. Welcome to the Nothing Near Post Show. It's great to have you.
Thanks, Max. I'm excited to be here, man. You forgot my dogs.
How many pups we got at home?
Right now we have 2. We had 3. Unfortunately, 1 left us in December. So we have 2 right now, and I mean they're the best.
Are they the type of pups?
My wife's there too.
Are they the type of pups that are out of practice chasing down balls, or are they?
No. One's a couch hippo. The other one is like, do you ever see the movie The Santa Claus?
Yeah.
I think it's Santa Claus 2, Chet the reindeer.
Okay.
That's our other dog. She's like Chet the reindeer.
I love it. Well, we're excited to have you. I really appreciate you making the time. I think for those that don't know, just want to kind of run through a little bit of the coaching lineage, right? So started at Sacred Heart for 2 years, head coach at Eastern Connecticut for 2 years, Fairfield for 3, Lafayette for 1, Hartford, University of Hartford for 3, and then have been at the helm as the 4th head coach in program history at Sacred Heart since 2014. I want to kick us off first with your coaching days at Fairfield. And I know it's a little bit out of order, but any chance you remember the Fairfield at Hobart game from March 31st, 2007?
Yes, I do. Actually, it was 5 years at Hartford.
5 years at Hartford.
Yeah, so I got to give my man Peter Lawrence the credit that's due to him for helping me get to where I am today. So I love Pete. He's been a huge supporter of ours from day one. That we got a chance to meet each other back in 2008, 10, 9.
Cool.
I don't remember. But so the 2007 game, yes, I remember that game. All 3 of our games against Hobart, I will never forget any 3 of them. The 2005 game where it was like freezing rain and cold and we won by a goal. The 2006 game at Fairfield where we went out for warm-ups, then we went back inside. Hobart came out and it was a torrential downpour during the Hobart warm-up. And then we came back out, they went inside, and it was beautiful. And then we won by we scored like an empty net goal at the end there to win. And but then the 2007 game, I think that was the game where it's like the entire student body came out and was like heckling us behind our bench the whole game. And we lost that game. And you guys won that game.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we'll touch on a few of the details because that game sits very close to my heart. For those that don't know, and I don't know if you know it all, but that was my first collegiate start ever.
Okay.
I was if we look back at it, Travis Nelson had a hat trick. The Stags outshot Hobart 45-33. The Stags held Hobart to 19 for 29 clearing. But the real game changer may have been Mike Bocklett, the great Mike Bocklett, unbelievable player, shooting 0 for 8 on the day, and the overweight, pimply-faced freshman from Hobart making 9 saves in the 4th quarter, including one at the buzzer to preserve the 11-10 win for the Statesmen at home. So
Thanks, Max.
that one sits close to the heart. So we'll gas you up the rest of the way, but I had to go back into the vault. He's actually wearing that helmet, I'm pretty sure. So
I see that, dude. That's sick, dude.
Had to bring it up.
No, I feel like every time that I've had an opportunity as a coach to play against Hobart, every game has been fun. Like every game's had something, whether we won or lost, and we've had plenty of games here against Coach Raymond and the boys up there. And I always enjoy going there. It was probably one of my favorite places in the NEC to go play because it's like, yeah, it's 6 hours away, right? But it's an easy 6 hours. Like go halfway. Get someplace, always stop like at a good rest stop halfway or somebody's house in Albany. One of our old players, Reed Aviduti, went to Niski. And so we used to stop at his house, have a nice lunch there. Folks were super kind to give us an opportunity to eat there. And then we'd go on the way to Hobart, practice when we get up there, always staying at that hotel right on the lake and right down the road from Hobart. Funny story about Sacred Heart Hobart. 2021. The COVID debacle, we'll just call it that season. So you know the whole thing, I don't know if you know the thing, but we had 35 guys that could travel We'd take 2 buses, spread everybody out, like it's whatever the stupid things we had to do, which made no sense and still make no sense. And all the windows in the bus are open. Everybody's wearing masks. The driver on our bus was completely encoded with like plexiglass or like a cover, a sheet, like a curtain, a shower curtain. So we get to Hobart, can't leave our hotel rooms, can't practice, got to stay in hotel rooms. We have to deliver food to the guys, wake up the next morning, same thing for breakfast, get to the field. They put us in the gym. It was awesome. They put us in the gym. We're all spread out. It was fantastic. So we're about 10 minutes before game time. We're on the field warming up. Hobart's on the field warming up. I'm like, oh, I got 10 minutes. Nobody's in the locker room. I could actually go and I could go to the bathroom because nobody's in there. Nobody's going to yell at me for being next to somebody or 6 feet away from somebody. So I start walking towards the locker room, and our athletic trainer stops me and says, wait, we have a problem. I'm like, there's no way. I'm like, we did all our testing. Everybody's negative. We're good to go. It's got to be a Hobart kid. But I was like, but they did all their testing too. What is it? The bus driver. So the bus driver got on the bus after she was supposed to get her test done, didn't get her results back. We find out that she tested positive. So we have to like separate our team. Half the team goes back into the locker room, into the gym, gets all their stuff. All the kids that were on bus 2, they go to one side of the gym. All the kids that were on bus 1, which was my bus, which the bus driver had a positive test, we're like, okay, we have to go now get all of our stuff and go to the other side of the room. So we're waiting, figuring out what we're going to do. At this point, we only have like 18 guys that can play that aren't like contact traced. And so Coach Raymond's like, what are we doing? I'm like, dude, I don't know. I give up with this whole thing. Turns out we couldn't play the game. So bus 2, they all get packed up. And we're like, you guys might as well just get out of here. Me, Coach Doctor, our athletic trainer, and I want to say 18 or 19 dudes. We're at Hobart for 8 hours, waiting for another bus to get there so we could go home. And then we got contact traced, so we were out for 10 days. Oh. And then we had to go back to Hobart at the end of the year. It was the last game when we had to play the game. And it ended up being an awesome game. I think they beat us by like 3 or 4, and it was like a tight game the whole way through, and they pulled away a little bit at the end. And but that was our last NEC. That was our second to last year in the NEC, and that was just, it kind of summed up that whole year. Jesus. But now the Hobart people were so good to us that day, helping us with whatever we needed, bringing us stuff, and like making us feel. They felt so bad for us, and like it was just such a whacked out year, man. Totally. But that's one of my favorite Hobart stories. I guess favorite, right, you know.
Right. Well, as we're reminiscing, I want to and kind of sticking with that. This will be at your time at Fairfield, but ECAC, right? That league. Can we talk a little bit about that league from your perspective? Obviously, I played in it, but you coaching in it, having been around sort of a lot more league changes than myself. I thought it was such a cool and just like wild conference, how diverse it was. But would love your take on sort of that ECAC league and some of the memories that you have from those ECAC days.
Well, believe it or not, my first year at Fairfield in 2005, we were in the Great West. So it was us, Denver, Air Force, Ohio State, Notre Dame, and Butler. Was Butler's last year of their program. And so we won that year in 2005. We won the championship. We played Duke in the first round of the tournament, they killed us, but it was awesome. And then we went to the ECAC, and the ECAC was so cool, right? It was like there's so many good teams. You had like a combination of basically the A10, the CAA, the Big East, and I guess what else? Who else? And the big. Did I say the Big Ten already? I might have already said it. It was Penn State. Penn State was in it. You guys were in it. UMass, us, Georgetown. Like it was such St. John's.
Loyola.
Loyola. Like, it was such a sick league, man, the Patriot League. Yeah. So it was like, every game was like was an absolute dogfight. And like that year in '06, we ended up like beating Loyola at home, which was just an awesome game. And like, we played so hard, we played so well, and it kind of springboarded us into an opportunity to win the game to win the conference that year. And we are the last game of the year. We go up to UMass. It's our second to last conference game. Our last game was St. John's at home, and like that was when St. John's first started. So like we knew the St. John's game, it was going to be a good opportunity for us to win that game, but we knew the UMass game was going to be a dogfight, and it was. We were winning the game the whole game. They scored 3 goals in the last minute to tie it, or 2 to tie it, and then 1 to go ahead with like 30 seconds left. We had a 30-second man up penalty with like a minute left in the game. And we just couldn't score. Like I think that was what's his name? Why am I blanking? Who's the goalie that was so legit in their Final Four year?
Runkle? No.
It was
Jake Haglund, the little guy, little lefty.
No, it was '06. Why am I the kid from Long Island?
'06 Loyola.
Doc Snyder.
Oh, wait, UMass. Sorry.
Yeah, a year with like Doc Snyder and like Sean Morris and all the Jack Avina and all those dudes, and they were so tough, man. That was like one of the best. That was one of the most fun. We lost, but it was one of the fun games we ever been. And like Doc Snyder came out of nowhere and made a save on Greg Downing for us to lose the game. Like Greg had a great look at it. He had an open shot and the kid just made a sick save. And it's like, okay. But like those memories are so cool, man. Like the guys that I was able to be around and the people I were able to like coaching with Daryl Delia for 3 years, the bond that him and I have formed is consistent today. He lives a mile from my house. Like our families are tight with each other still. And like some of the guys that I met are still consistently emailing me or texting me after last year and like this year. And, you know, that Fairfield game that we play every year now it's got special meaning. We do it, I think for our team, it's like a pre-conference conference game. That's how we approach it. And it's like, this is the closest thing you're going to get to a conference game feel. And it's true, it is. And it's been such a fun game to be a part of over the last 4 years since we've been 5 years since we've been playing it. Sure. That you know, it's a special game for me. It is a special game for me, and you know, but yeah, my time there with those guys, with that group of dudes, was so much fun. Sure. We had a blast, and I love those guys. You know, they're good people. I talk to a lot of them often, and they're some of my favorite people I've ever been around.
That's cool. So Coach Delia was the head guy at Fairfield at the time, or was it still?
No, he was. So Double was the associate head coach, and I was like the third assistant. And then my first year there, we had Bruce Frady, who ended up going on to be the head assistant at Quinnipiac for a few years, and then went down to North Carolina for a couple of years. And I think now he's in Texas coaching high school, doing a great job down in high school in Texas, and working with. I think he was with 3D for a while. I'm pretty sure he still is. I could be wrong there, and I apologize if I am. And then the last 2 years there, we had Rob Mulligan as our volunteer assistant. That was when you could only have 2 paid assistant coaches. And Robbie lived in town, and him and I played club together, so we became friends. And he started working with us, and having him on the staff was so cool, and it was fun. Like he's such a good dude. We remain friends to this day, and I talk to him pretty much like once or twice a week. Like he's a big fan of Sacred Heart Lacrosse, and he's become a really good friend of mine.
That's awesome. Yeah, that ECAC league, man, it was. I think some people who are relatively new to lacrosse don't know that all those teams were in the same league at one point.
I know. So sick, dude. It's such a sick league.
Loyola's, Fairfield, Penn State, like you mentioned, just insane. UMass playing at Ted Garber Field on the AstroTurf.
Oh, the old AstroTurf, yeah, man.
Like planned out at Penn State before they had this new beautiful setup that they've got now out in the grass, out in the shadow of Beaver Stadium. Playing
Horrible Hall.
Yeah.
07, I think it was. We played indoors,
Yep.
and like the lines were the other way.
Yep.
Like the lines were like going the length of the field, and we were like, "What is going on right now?"
Yep. And I'm pretty sure there was a rumor when we went down to play there that going towards the end zone was actually on a little bit of an incline.
Yep.
So and
Yep.
they went opposite. So there was like there was a touch of a grade to each side of half. It was
Yep.
it was something else. But those are some great. I mean, shit, it's a ton of really good players in that league from all over. But,
Yeah.
moving on to your time at Hartford, the Hartford Hawks, and yes, to those of you that are new to the scene, the Hartford Hawks had a Division I team, and they were damn good.
Yeah.
I want to zero in on something that is like specific, and obviously with your face-off background, Timmy Fallon was under your tutelage at Hartford and was recognized as an All-American twice in his career at that face-off position. I thought it was really cool when I was doing my research to learn that Tim Fallon led the nation in 2010 in 9.4 ground balls per game and a 62% face-off percentage. Can you talk a little bit about your time at Hartford and maybe a little bit about Fallon, is like what made him great, and like from your face-off perspective and expertise, things that you focused on with him to sort of get him to that level?
Well, I think I was lucky enough to show up to Hartford at the right time. Like Coach Lawrence brought in that freshman class or actually my first year was Timmy's sophomore year. And the freshman class we had was extremely talented. A couple guys that eventually would be all conference. I think Carter Bender might have been an All-American eventually, and maybe Aiden Genick as well. But there was some other guys, unsung heroes like Marty Bose, and who ended up being an all-conference player for us, and then ended up going on to the PLL. MLL before the PLL. He played in the MLL for a couple of years, and and so those guys were all freshmen that year. And then Timmy was a sophomore with Brandon Marlowe and Connor Flynn, a defenseman for us, and like those dudes were awesome. And one of a couple other guys, Niski, like Scott Bement was our goalie. He was a freshman, and we had a bunch of seniors that were like kind of sick of losing, and that was all Coach Law. Like Coach Law, he changed the perspective of those guys just from being himself, and I learned that from him. And the best way to do this job is to be yourself. And so I like I said, I was just lucky enough to be there at the right time. And with Timmy, he was like any kid, right? Like he loved being a lacrosse player. He loved lacrosse, but he was such a tough dude. Like, talk about a blue collar guy. Like, he's your typical UMass, or he's from Lowell, Massachusetts. Like, his dad was a teacher. And then I think he worked as like, he would take care of the kids that were like in school suspension. So it was like, dad was a tough dude. His mom was a super kind, such a nice lady, and she was a tough lady. Like they loved their kid, right? And when I say tough, I just mean like their mentality. But they were so gracious and grateful, and so was Timmy. I think Timmy just needed a little bit of help to show him exactly what it took to be great at that position. And it was almost like the two of us. It wasn't easy at the beginning. Like Timmy's the type of guy where you got to earn his trust, which makes me respect him a lot. And I think because of the way I handled him and the way we communicated with each other, and I was honest with him. I never, like when he did something wrong or he did something I didn't think was good, I'd tell him. And when he did something great and things I thought were good, I'd go crazy about it because I wanted to make sure that he understood I wanted the good more than the bad. And so being able to do that with him and work with him was tremendous. And he was a sponge. We worked on a lot of things together, and we'd talk about things, and we'd adjust as games go on. We'd adjust as the season went on. And there were times where it was just like, Timmy, you're reverting back to your old self. And he would get frustrated at himself, not what I was saying. And he would just concentrate on doing the little things right. And I always told him, if you have good technique, everything else will follow in suit. And if you can be consistent with your technique and do these things over and over again, it's like, I used to believe very much in muscle memory. I don't know if I believe in that anymore, but I believe in consistency. And I believe in the more you do things, the more you're going to see how it's successful, the more you're just going to be used to doing it. And I think that's a learned skill that you have, and Timmy was like that. And there was a couple other guys with us that did a good job. They helped Timmy get better. But I also think like Timmy had really good wing guys. Like I know we had 9 point something ground balls, but like Ben Napton was our long stick midi. Brandon Marlowe was an unbelievable wing guy for us, and he was like a dog on the wing. It was like anytime we needed a tough ground ball, we're throwing Mars on the wing, and he would get it. And Timmy trusted those guys, and Timmy understood that those guys were going to come up with the ball and they were going to help him. And we would throw him on the wing a little bit too when Ben needed a break. And those guys were tight. They were super tight, and I think that made them trust each other. And so, like, they knew that if Timmy could get the ball to a place where he was if his exits were good, and if he had a 50-50 shot, it wasn't a 50-50 shot. It was like a 90-10 shot that he was coming up with it because he was so gritty. And he worked on that stuff.
Sure.
Like, he worked on that stuff. He worked on ground balls. He worked on tough ground balls.
Sure.
And so I give him a lot of credit for wanting to be good and putting the time in to do so.
Sure. Yeah. Lowell, Massachusetts, the Mill City, the bank of Merrimack, that just creates sort of a type of dude. So I can only imagine that. It's cool to hear, one, the consistency piece for me. That speaks to discipline. And I'm sure a guy like that had a ton of discipline in certain areas of his life. I'm sure he was probably lacking it in others, like we all are, But
no, that's me.
But it's also cool to hear the wing play, right? Like that's so important to that position, and you don't just see a dominant faceoff guy without dominant wing guys as well. So that's all. I'm sure, or maybe I'm not. I think I saw. Are the Pios still wearing Cascade helmets out of from Timmy or no?
We are still wearing Cascade helmets, and like we're Lax.com and those guys over there at Cascade help us out with that. We wear Warrior with everything else, and so we're lucky enough to be able to wear some of the best. I mean, I think all the equipment now is sick, dude. Like it's so cool. Like everything you see is just like the Cascade helmet's cool, the Warrior helmet's cool, the gloves are cool, the Maverick gloves are cool. So it's like there's so much cool gear out there.
Sure.
Where back when I was playing, it was like we had L33s, and they were basically hockey gloves.
Of course.
And then I remember leather gloves. My freshman year, we went to play Loyola, and we lost the game before it even started because we were all excited we were like pissed off that they had leather gloves and we had cloth gloves. And so I was like, "What the hell?"
Focused on the wrong things.
Yeah.
I mean, the gear stuff. I mean, don't even get me started. Right? Some of the sayings like "cut off his strings." We don't even know what that means anymore. If you say that to somebody today, they'll look at you like you have four heads.
Dude, those back rack helmets were sick, man. I still have my helmets. I wore my helmets from high school and college.
That's awesome.
With like the double chin guard.
Oh yeah.
I thought you were really cool wearing that.
That's awesome. Well, turn our attention to your current program, the Sacred Heart Pioneers. I want to start with a quote you gave when you took the job in the summer of 2013. Quote is, "I'm very excited about the things we can do here in the future. I think there's a lot of potential for us to do a lot of great things and compete both in the conference as well as nationally." My first question to that is, do you feel like that's come true?
I think we're still getting there, right? I think we took a big step last year, and we've been taking steps every year to get there. But I believe that as soon as you think that you're where you need to be, you start declining. And so we are always thinking, how can we be better? How can we be moving forward? And that's just like day to day and week to week, as well as year to year. And I think that the school is pretty sick, man. Like it's a beautiful place, and we're very blessed. We're blessed with the number one, with the most important thing about real estate. That's location. The three most important things: location. We're blessed with all three of them.
Cool.
Right off the Merritt, right off 95. It's easy to get here. We got 5 airports that you can get to, no problem. And so it makes life pretty easy for a lot of people to get here. And I think because of that, the opportunity for any program here to be successful is there. And you just got to be able to put the time in. And you have to create, not only do we get support from the university. I mean, every university and every program can say, well, we need more support. Of course who doesn't need more, But I think what's nice about this place is they've always been very understanding that, hey, this is what we need to do. And if you can go do it and you can find a way to get it done, we'll support you with it. And so that was a big thing for me when I got the job that summer, and just talking to Bobby Valentine and talking to the vice president, Jim Barcanero, at the time, and them understanding that this is what I think we're going to need to do. And this is how it's going, this is how I think it's going to happen. They were understanding of that and they were accepting of it. And, we've built steadily every year, and I think we're in a great spot right now. I think the MAC conference is perfect for us. I'm excited for our whole university being in there. And, we've been pretty competitive in the conference, obviously. And there's so many like-minded schools to us that it just makes things a little bit more complete, I think, with who we are and what we believe in as a program and as a university. And so, yeah, man, I think we're on our way. I think we're consistent with what we try to do. And, I'm very confident that if we just keep building every year, regardless of what happens at the end of the year and where we stand, if we can constantly think about the fact that we're getting better, we'll be successful.
Totally. And I'd say you've been more than successful in the league. Winning it last year with that photo over your left shoulder is awesome. I want to use a little bit of your terminology here from something that I read. We mentioned it briefly, but just to revisit it, current head coach of Sacred Heart, fourth head coach of Sacred Heart's program history, but you're a repeat offender. You coached there for your first coaching job, right? So I'll use that term, repeat offender. But
he's careful with that.
Yeah. Good point. We'll put air quotes around it for sure. But I'm going to use some terminology that I think you guys potentially still use. But what's the difference to pull on kind of your Pios tradition for Sacred Heart, and why'd you come back? Like, what was it that pulled you back? What was the difference?
So before I answer that question, I think we need to let the folks know what the difference is.
Sure.
Something I learned in my days at Hartford that Coach Lawrence had the guys do, and we do it a little bit, not the same way we did it at Hartford. We used to do it at halftime of practice. The day before a game. We do it at the end of practice the day before a game here. And it's a time that's meant for our seniors. Every senior gets a game. And a lot of them choose games that mean something to them. And it has nothing to do with your where you stand on the team as far as like depth charter or anything like that. It's just everybody has an opportunity to express what this program is meant to them and what the guys mean to them. And it's 4 years building up to that moment, because every freshman sees every senior do it. And so it's a big deal for us. It's an important thing. And what I try to do is when I give an introduction each Tuesday or Friday, is I try to talk about how that person was recruited, how that guy was recruited, or and what brought that guy to our attention. And I never talk about them as players. I always talk about them as people and like what they bring to the program off the field. And that's what it's supposed to be about. It's supposed to be about why Sacred Heart lacrosse has made their life different most of the time in a positive way. There's been some interesting ones over the years.
Totally.
That I was like, oh God, that one hurt. But like, I would say 99% of them have been like really, really cool and have opened the doors for some people to learn things about other guys. And so that's what the difference is as far as like what specifically it is. But, and so what was your question originally?
What's the difference for you
for us?
as coming back? Like why'd you want to come back? What set it apart?
I love Fairfield. I love the town of Fairfield. I really did. Like I very much enjoyed being in Hartford. West Hartford was very similar to Fairfield, but like I'm from New Jersey, so it's like 2 hours from my house. I live in New Haven, so it's like 30 minutes from my house as opposed to an hour from my house. And so, but like the town of Fairfield and the Fairfield community is so cool. It's like your typical New England town. Like at Christmas time, they have all the lights down Post Road. In the summer, it's a cool beach town. And Sacred Heart has done a really good job over the last 5 to 6 years of being more ingrained in the town itself. We have the theater. We purchased the theater down there. that that's one of the areas, and there's some other areas down there, and Fairfield U has their spots in town as well. But it's such a cool place to be, and this area of the country, I just like being around here. I'm a New Yorker by birth, and so the paced, fast paced world that this Connecticut, which is a suburb of New York, pretty much Fairfield County is a suburb of New York. It's very similar. I'm a big New York sports fan, so being able to get to the Garden to watch a Ranger game, even though they stink this year, or being able to just get in the car and drive to, yes, I see your hat, Max, the Jets.
Oh, no, this is Jackson Hole. You don't have to worry about it. This is,
all right,
Jackson
okay.
Hole Buffalo.
But like, I'm a Jets fan. I have to admit that. But like being able to get to MetLife in like an hour, or being able to get to Citi Field, it's an hour drive, or like you take the train and then jump on the 7 line and you're there, and like, or get to Yankee Stadium. I'm a Mets fan, but I love going to Yankee games because Yankee Stadium is pretty cool.
Sure.
But that to me was important, right? Like, because I'm a big sports guy.
Cool.
I enjoy professional sports very, very much. And so that was important to me, and being able to be close to my family and knowing the area and pretty much growing up here. I mean, I was here since 1995, since I was a freshman in college. It became home to me. And so having the opportunity to move back to the area was cool. And then just looking at the opportunity at the university, I thought that with Bobby Valentine being hired as the new athletic director, I think they were ready to go to a different level. And we have, think about what's happened since he's been here. They built the beautiful hockey rink on campus, which is I love going to games there. It's so much fun to watch those guys play, and like having that on campus is really cool. And like what they're going to be doing to our field this year, and what they've done just in general, consistently adding and growing and getting bigger, but getting better.
Sure.
I saw that then, and I saw the vision that Bobby had for the program, and what the vision Bobby had for the athletic department. I was like, yeah, man, and Bobby Valentine's my boss. Like, hell yeah. That's awesome. Pretty cool. That's awesome. So, just being able to see, I believed in that vision, and that's kind of what we've sold here as a program to the guys that we may not have gotten otherwise. This is our vision. This is what we expect to be and expect to do. And it's going to take a while, but we're going to get there. And, last year was a culmination of all that. And we're hoping that we can continue what we're doing this year.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, the support is certainly being seen in results. I know, obviously, with you guys winning last year, and it sounds like a lot of other teams are having some success across the board. Real quick before we move on, Bobby Valentine, like the baseball guy?
Yeah, he was our AD.
That's amazing.
Until 2001 or 2021 or 2022. I think I don't remember what year left, but wow. I think it was 21 was his last year. And yeah, Bobby V was our AD for a couple of years, and being a Mets fan. His tenure at the Mets was awesome. So like, I'm a big baseball fan. I know that's crazy as a lacrosse guy. Wow. That's like almost sacrilege. No. But I love baseball. Always have, always will. And like I'm a big history guy. I love history, and the history of the game is important to me. And so knowing Bobby's story, being a Stanford guy, being a Connecticut guy, and coming up and like working his way through the Dodgers organization and then to the Mets organization, and then he worked for President Bush. As the Texas Rangers. That stuff's cool, man.
So cool.
And he's such a good dude. He was such a good mentor, and I learned a lot from him. So it was a pretty unique experience.
Cool. That's awesome. I had no idea.
Yeah.
How's the baseball program at Sacred Heart?
Very good. Despite the fact that they don't have like a real home field, they are very good. They finished second in the NEC last year. I think they're killing it right now in the MAC. They won multiple NEC championships, have gone to multiple NCAA tournaments.
Cool.
Like, it's a pretty good program.
Cool. No, that's awesome. I want to circle back because obviously I asked you about sort of the program itself, but everything that we've talked about, you've been able to weave in the men that you've been able to coach, whether I was talking about Fairfield, Hartford, Sacred Heart, like you've always woven in those guys, and it sounds like they're incredibly important to you, and kind of you wear that on your sleeve, and I'm sure that's something that they really appreciate, and probably what attracts them towards you as their head coach. And I was reading an article following the MAC championship last year, and goalie Alex Pazienza, he was singing your praises because you do a great job of, quote, having everyone's back, end quote. I thought it was an awesome piece. Cool for Alex to sort of give you that kind of shout out. Is that something that you do intentionally as a head coach of this program, or is that something that sort of just naturally comes to you given your meticulous recruiting of these guys that you want to surround yourself with?
I think it's a little bit of both. You can never. So a couple of years ago, I kind of lost my way, and I tried to do things based on what I saw other people do, and it was so evident that it was not. It didn't take. It was like I was wearing a mask, right? And people knew it, and I knew it, and I just couldn't get out of it. But then I eventually kind of found my way out of it, and I worked hard to get to like mentally get to where I've been the last 3 years, and I started doing a lot of work with Coach Stagnita, and the one thing he keeps saying is you just got to be yourself. You just got to be yourself, and I think that's the way I was raised, right? Like my parents are very hardworking individuals. My grandparents are very hardworking individuals on both sides of the family, and my mom's side and my dad's side. And so like being able to learn from them and understanding that it's if you can just treat people the right way, they'll be willing to go to the ends of the earth for you if you respect them and you just treat people the way that they understand that you really do care about them. And I care about these guys. Like up until 2016, like my wife and I didn't have children. And so these were kind of our kids. We looked at them as such, and, you know, we looked at them as our responsibility to try to help them become better people. And then we were lucky enough to have kids, and then it became like twofold. I had two families, you know, and it was really neat to be able to be with these guys and spend every day with them, and then be with my family and spend the time with my immediate family at home. But yeah, I think it's always been the way. I've always been that way. Because I believe I'm a big believer in relationships. I'm a big believer in building relationships and cultivating relationships. Because when you can build a relationship, and especially a relationship that's built on trust, you can, and communication, you can be honest with people and not be afraid to be honest with people. And those people will respect you for being honest with them, as opposed to looking at it as like, you're just yelling at me all the time. It's like, no, man, like I want you to be better. And you have to understand that if you're not better, we're not better. And so I want to be better. I don't want to be average. I don't want to be just another team. I want to be above average. And that takes effort and work. But it also takes a little bit of understanding and a little bit of giving of yourself to be part of something bigger. And I think you always kind of have an idea that there's a possibility there that it could happen. But until you're in the middle of it and you see it, you don't really understand it. And when I say that, what I mean is, you know, when we're in our office and we're talking to these guys about personal stuff, and if they're having trouble, and they come to us, they're like, Coach, I'm struggling with this, please help. And like, yeah, man, what do you need? Whatever, everything, we're here for you. And they respect that and they understand it. And so that if it happens once, when they know that you care about them, it'll happen again and again and again. And then they know that like whatever happens, you have their best interest at heart. Even if it's something that's negative that there's got to be a consequence for. It's not like we're just yelling and screaming at you, or you're having a consequence because we want to. It's like, no, like you made a mistake, and so we have to fix that mistake, but you need to learn from it so you don't make it again, because this is not you. You're not this person. The event is different than the individual. And so you can speak to them in those terms, I think they're willing to do things that they're willing to give a little bit of themselves and and sacrifice some stuff for the greater good. And I respect that. It takes a lot to do that. And so, you know, and I enjoy being around them. I don't sugarcoat that, or I don't mask that. Like, they make me laugh, and I laugh when they do, and they make me angry, and I get mad when they do. But it's never like, but we never let it linger.
Sure.
Like, I'm big on that. You cannot let it linger. If there's a problem, you deal with the problem, and then within 24 hours, there needs to be another connection to make sure that the problem is handled and we've all moved on.
Sure.
Because the worst thing that you can do is let things linger.
Sure.
And so I think as a group, we've learned that, and we've, knock on wood, we've been pretty successful doing that.
Totally.
And so they're just kids, you know. They just want to be. They all want to be. They want to be led. They want to lead, but they want to learn. They want to be better. They want to learn how to be better. And we're teachers. We have to understand that. We have to do that.
Sure. Yeah, we was talking with Coach Kester, and he said that he's not so much a lacrosse guy, that he's passionate about teaching, and that is 100% what you guys are doing, and it's really cool. And I was looking up a quote that came to my mind as you were talking, and I didn't want to butcher it, so I had to look it up. But Coach John O'Zissi out on the West Coast, high school guy. I don't know where he learned it from, but when you were talking, it was the first thing that came to my mind. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And
Yep.
It sounds like that's something that you kind of are living day to day with your guys, which is really neat.
Yeah, I mean they're good dudes. Like, they're fun to be around, right? Like, they want what's best for each other. They want what's best for the program. They very much care about being here. They very much care about being pioneers. And I respect that. I respect the hell out of them for that. And so how could you not love that and
Sure.
want to be part of that,
Sure.
right? It's like, it's addictive.
Speaking of those guys, and I mean, shoot, you love being around them. There's no better place than a locker room, period, in my eyes. It's such a sacred place, an awesome place to be. And I'm sure the locker room was a hell of a place after the win this past weekend in OT over the Marist Red Foxes. John Murray was the guy who queued up the celebration, grown-ass man dodge versus the pole in OT. I'm curious. I want to get X's and O's a little bit. Is that something that Coach Doctor drew up, or did Murray just grab the bull by the horns and said, "Let's end this thing and let's move on"?
So it's funny you say that. I think it was kind of a combination of both. I think Coach Doc our offense is very much based on concepts. It's completely conceptually based, and so, like, they knew coming out of the quarter, when our first possession, this is what we want to do. And I think we actually got a pretty good look in what we wanted to do. And like, Tucker Spencer had a good look, and he ended up getting the ball. And I thought we were going to win it on that. And he got a stick check, right? And then John did a really good job of dodging where he's supposed to dodge from and taking advantage of an opportunity. It's like, we kind of knew once he was going and he kind of got downhill a little bit, and that kid was on his outside shoulder, he did it against Sienna on the other side. So I was like, oh, he's going. And he did, and he was able to stay out of the crease, that's what we were waiting for at the end. But it was kind of a combination. It was the boys doing what Coach Doc wanted them to do, but it was also them being able to, okay, these are the concepts we're taught, so we're just going to go play. And when it came down to it, we were able to deliver in that moment,
Sure.
which is pretty special. To be able to do that twice in conference, put an overtime game against two very good teams. It's pretty cool. And so it was great for John. I was happy for him, and the play you think about the whole sequence. One of my buddies texted me the other day, like, he had to rewatch the last 5 minutes of the game like 35 times because we go up, then they tie it, then they go up, then we get the minute and 17 seconds left. We get the ball back on a double team at the end line, which rarely happens now because there's so much space to run. And our defense executed it perfectly. Great play by Jack Ramsey in the corner to get the ball to pass, and we cleared it. And then, like, the boys just took care of it from there. And but that all happened and then we call timeout, and then little Timmy Kiley rings out the back of the net and tears out the corner from John Murray to tie the game with, like, I think 8 seconds left or something like that. And then to win it in overtime was pretty special. And there was a play So if you watch the game, there's a play right before that where we get possession. So we make a stop. One of our D middies he twigs a kid, and he did the same thing against Siena. And Luke Catalico, he's one of our captains. He twigs a kid. We get the ball, we clear it, and their pole makes a great play. Their pole, the kid Casano, 44, is a very good player. He makes a really great play in the midfield to knock a pass down during the clear. They pick it up, and then Jake Ward, who's one of our captains, the kid rides like an animal. He's a really good player, but his best part of his game, I think, and he may fight me on this, but is his riding ability.
Sure.
And so he's probably 5'4", 5'5", goes over the head two-handed and takes the ball away from their midi. And we pick it up. Tucker Spencer picks it up. We get possession back, and that's when John scored on that possession. And so there's such a sequence of events that could have went the other way, but because of our effort and because of our where we were mentally and our belief in who we are, and that we are never out of the fight, and then we were able to pull through at the end. And so I give a lot of credit to those guys for all those little plays, and we celebrate those plays, right? On Monday in film, we always celebrate those plays.
Of course.
We call them winning plays, and there were 15 from the game. It's the most we've had all year. It's 15 winning plays from that game, which was really cool.
Awesome. And winning plays are that ride back, churn it over.
5 at the end line. There was a play in the third quarter where their goalie makes a save, they clear it, and John Murray he runs all the way down, trailing a kid. The kid rolls back, and then John's okay, maybe I get off the field now. But then the kid attacks the cage again, so John's got to play offense or got to play defense. They throw a pass, one of their kids misses the net, and then John Murray backs the balls up at the end of the cage. On our end line, and then we clear it, and then a couple plays later, Alex Paz runs and dives and gets a back up. Those plays, stealing possessions, picking off passes, ride backs, big ground balls, knocking down passes, playing offensive guys playing defense for extended periods of time, big ground balls in the midfield. Those are winning plays, and we recognizing those things because I think it's important for those guys.
Totally. Let's stick with those guys. What's crazy to me is John obviously scored the game winner. He was 2-2, right? But he didn't even get a MAC Weekly Award. 2 other guys on the roster got it.
That happens.
You got Michael Mareshi for his 9-point performance through the week. He was 1-2 against.
Yeah, that's how it happens, I guess. Yeah.
And then you got Dom Basti, who 5-point week, 2-1 for Rookie of the Week, I believe. The second name obviously sounds familiar. I'm curious how you've enjoyed coaching your 2 sons at Sacred Heart, and follow up with how sort of intentional you attempt to be and sort of how you coach them.
Any time that you can spend, whenever you have the opportunity to spend time with your family, it's special, right? And I get to do it every day, and so it's been.
Sorry,
I told you this was going to happen too.
I love it, man. Emotional. This is good, man.
For German Miller.
German Miller.
I it's been fun coaching him, and there, the best thing I could say about so I don't know if you know the backstory. We adopted our boys in 2016. Tyler, the older one, was 13. Dom was 10. And so there's when that happens, there's always growing pains, literally and figuratively. But we stuck together as a family, and we had some really good times, and we had some times we had to learn from. And I think as a family, we've consistently grown and gotten tighter and tighter.
Awesome.
And now to be able to share this with them, to be able to share the MAC championship with Tyler last year, and now for him to come back as a senior and he's pretty banged up and but he loves playing lacrosse, and so he's out there trying every day to just be a good teammate. And Dom's grown, he's gotten better, he works hard, and I think his teammates have been really good with him and teaching him things, and so they just love being part of this program. This program means a lot to them, as it does to all these kids, and so I think that's been the best part of being able to coach them, is seeing them on a daily basis and being able to share this with them. And it's been a lot of fun.
Awesome.
It's been interesting. but it's been fun, you know.
And personally, from the outside looking in, I mean, if your two sons want to come and hang out with you for 4 extra years, a lot of people that don't want to hang out with pops at that age. So if they want to come and hang out, I think that speaks volumes to you and the program that you've created, man. So
well, thank you. Sure. I appreciate you saying that. And I think it also just shows that, like, you know, they both had opportunities to go elsewhere, but they wanted to come here because they grew up here, right? And it was like very familiar to them, and it was like home to them, and it means a lot to them, as it does to all these kids. Like, you talked about those other guys, like Mike Mareshi is like an awesome kid. Like, he loves lacrosse so much, and we're so fortunate and grateful to have him in our program. And you know, he hasn't had the production goal wise that he's wanted to have, or we wanted. But like last week, it was like, now Mike, he played fantastic all week, and so he deserved that. He works really hard for that. And there's so many guys that it could have been, right? There's so many guys that could have earned those awards during the week, and you know, those guys were just fortunate enough to carry the torch for their teammates. But you know, I'm pretty lucky to be able to spend this time with my immediate family, and also to spend this time with these kids on a daily basis. Like, it's a pretty cool experience for me.
Sure. And another guy I think that you're lucky to spend time with is Coach Doctor. I know we've got some listeners out there that they'd kill me if I didn't ask, but that we got listeners that are big fans of Coach Doctor. So open forum, any good Coach Doctor stories, fun, specific, X's and O's, maybe just something on the bus, anything good there.
Coach Doc is the same all the time. Except the only thing I'll say about Coach Doc, he's not really a big fan of game day. Loves practice. So excited about practice. Game day, he's just like, ugh. We win, and he gets really excited. And so when we lose, he's like, ugh. But like, Coach, that's the best thing about him, is he's consistent, right? And I think the respect that man has for the game of lacrosse is impressive. And it's kind of infectious. It has been for me to be around him for 5 years. I mean, we were very close. We lived together. We worked together at Lafayette for a year. And then when the opportunity came to bring him in, it was like I immediately called him, and I was like, he was like, yes. And it was it was so exciting for me to be able to share this with him. And then for him to do what he's done, like, he's worked so hard to make our program better. Completely revamped our recruiting, completely revamped our offense. And, you know, I have the absolute trust in him on so many levels. We're pretty much family, and I respect his knowledge of the game. I respect he cares about the kids same way I do.
Cool.
Like, I can't even say similar or the same way I do. We're different people, right? Like, I'm a loud, obnoxious human being, and he's a very quiet human being. So we show it differently, but he very much cares about the team. And I think him and I we're so different as far as our personality goes, that I think that's why it works well between the two of us. He's not afraid to tell me he's not afraid to have a difficult conversation with me if it needs to happen. And I respect him for that. And I listen to him. And even if we argue about something, it happens and then it's done. Sure. And then we move on. But, you know, I think that the mutual respect there for the two of us is pretty cool. And I very much enjoy spending every day with him.
Cool.
You know, he's such and his lacrosse knowledge is pretty. He's had so many good experiences between, like, the lineage that he comes from, the lacrosse lineages in his family is so tremendous. You know, like with his dad, his brother. You know, his mom is like our biggest fan. You know, so,
love it.
But like, and his family has been so great. Like, they live in town here, and like his son is starting to get a little bit older. His daughters are starting to get a little bit older, and so like they're all involved in sports now, and so it's cool to see them grow. And you know, it's we're lucky he's here. I'm very fortunate to be surrounded by him and Coach Leeds and Coach DeVoe, of who we've added this year. Like,
Cool.
we got some pretty good dudes. We've had some good dudes come through here, and so I constantly learning from these people every single day, which is so important to me.
It's interesting to hear Coach Doctor doesn't like game day. That's usually reserved, from my experience, for the defensive guy, where it's just absolute anxiety. How the hell are we gonna keep the ball out of the net? But it's good to hear that it goes the other way too. If you got that. All right, I got one more topic I want to cover with you, and then we're gonna play a quick game to wrap it up. This topic might get the blood flowing a little bit, so I'm excited for this one. But I've sat in a room with you before when we were talking about rules.
Oh God!
And,
about face-off rules, Max.
No. It's gonna be a big picture rule.
All right.
I've sat in a room with you. We're talking about rules, and it came up. What if we just got rid of the face-off?
Oh God! I just said that, man. You lied to me. That's messed up.
It wasn't technical. It wasn't stand-up. It wasn't moto. But so here's the question. All right. Some people want to ban it. Others, they want to ban it because they're not good at it. My opinion, and I think we're on the same page here, is shut up and recruit a good one and coach them to be better. But why should we never get rid of the face-off?
Because it's cool.
Yeah.
It's like one of the most exciting parts of the game. Which this game is extremely exciting on so many levels. But, like, do you really want to just take the ball out of the end line and try to clear it? Like, it's like, oh, come on. I mean, I love writing and clearing. I think it's a fun part of the game, I think. It's also very nerve-wracking. And so is face-offs, but it's unique. It's unique to who we are. It's unique to our sport. I think the whole sixes model with just taking it after the shot and, like, clearing it and playing, I think is silly. I do. I think it's silly. I'm not a big fan of it, but the face-off is such a unique part. And so what if it gives a couple different kids an opportunity to play? Who cares? Why is that bad? I think that should be celebrated. Like, if it wasn't for face-offs, I wouldn't be sitting here. If it wasn't for the fact you're a goalie, you wouldn't be sitting here.
Yep.
And if it wasn't for, like, there's so many dudes I know that have come up in this game. I mean, there's a dude in Staten Island right now who just got their first win as a head coach last Friday, who started as a face-off coach, came here as a D coordinator, helped us win a MAC championship, earned an opportunity to be a head coach. Like, there's so many stories like that out there, from players to coaches. I just don't know why anybody would want to get rid of that. And, and those people are passionate about their thing too, and that's fine. They can be. I just don't agree with it. I don't agree with it. And I will have that conversation or that argument or that debate any day of the week. And it's been tried before. And it was an absolute failure. Everybody hated it. So the fact that it's already been done, everybody hated it. Why would we even think about it? Like, let's leave it alone. And here's the best part of it. When we made the change in 2020, my last year on the committee, when we made the change to go to standing neutral grip, everybody was, like, up in arms. The face-off has been the best it's ever been. And then this year, when they got rid of guys afraid to jump, when they got rid of the penalty, that was the next best thing they ever did. And so I think the face-off's in a great place right now. I think it's you have a lot of good players out there that are doing a good job. Leave it alone. It's one of the most important and one of the most exciting part of the game. And recruit a better one. Like, teach them how to take face-offs. Like, teach them how to. And if you can't, there's ways around it, right? Like, we always toy with. I think we're lucky enough to have some pretty good guys here. We got 5 of them, and I think they're all unique and they're all very talented in their own way. But, like, even with that, we toyed with, okay, what if we need to take a face off of the pole? And that's Coach Doc's thing. He was like, well, what if we need to do that? And, like, at first I was like, meh. But then I'm like, okay, you know what? Let's do it. Let's see what we can do with it and how we can mess around with it a little bit. And it was like, oh, this is interesting. This is kind of fun. And although I'm like, guys, this is not because we don't think you're good.
Right.
It's just another wrinkle where we think we can kind of mess around with some teams and like throw something at somebody, and so they're like, oh,
Right.
Freak people out a little bit, which I enjoy doing.
I loved your initial
I get
answer.
freaked out plenty. So
I loved your initial answer because it's cool.
It's cool, man. It's like you get down there, like two guys grinding it out. It's like turns into a scrum, and then there's ground balls, and it's like talk about winning plays. I mean, those wing face-off ground balls, they are so important, and it gives people another opportunity to prove that they can do something to help a team be successful.
Cool. All right, I've taken up a ton of your time. Let's jump into a little game. I don't know if you've heard it before. We call it This or That on the Nothing Near Post show. I'm gonna give you two things.
Like Black Sheep song.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So I'm gonna give you two things, and you basically got to pick one. If you got a little banter around it, lovely. All right. First one, I saw you were a double major at Fairfield. This or that, history or politics?
Dude, that's a loaded question right now.
True.
I can't stand politics anymore. So I love history, dude. I did politics because I thought a lot of it was what I learned was, and the courses I took were based on history. Cool. And they didn't offer like an American history courses or a major at Fairfield. So I chose to go with that. And then I got my double major later, after I did it after I graduated. And so like I had to do when I was in my master's program, I kind of took some extra courses to get my double major in history. And so, and I needed it so I could teach history.
All right. So let's dive into a history lesson. You just mentioned it. We tried to get rid of the face-off. What year was that? And what was the exact setup?
I think it was in the 80s, like 87, 88 maybe. And that was when you could ride with 9 poles or even 10 poles. I think you could pull the goalie off and ride with another pole. And so you had like a riding team, and they would just take it out on the end line and try to clear it against 9 poles. Amazing. And it was a nightmare.
All right.
I believe up until 1995, you could play with 6 poles on defense.
Wow.
I believe that was true. I could be wrong there. I'm sure Miller will. If I'm wrong, he'll tell me.
Miller will have it.
Yeah.
All right. You just touched on this, but
I bet it was Germ was the one that said we should get rid of the face-off and told you to ask me that question. I can guarantee that.
To be honest with you, I just remember sitting in the ballroom H at the Baltimore Waterfront Marriott, and that conversation getting heated. So
we're still talking about it. It's like, can we give it up, please? Can we talk about something that's important at the convention?
You keep fighting the good fight. Nothing near post. We'll keep fighting the good fight as well. All right.
Yeah. Thanks, Max.
So two kind of in that realm. This or that, knee down or standing?
I'm a standing neutral grip guy.
Cool.
Yeah, 100%.
That was going to be the next one. This or that, moto or neutral grip. So that one answers that.
Yeah.
This one I wanted to ask you just because of how meticulous and of such a great recruiter that you are. This or that, peak 200 or top 205?
Well, I have to say top 205.
Okay.
And only because I did a lot more years at top 205s than peak 200.
Okay.
And I just like Baltimore, and I didn't like staying in the dorms at University of Maryland, but little known fact, I was always the air conditioning guy. So like day one, I'd go, and my second year there, me and Kevin Burnsy and I think we roomed together. We went to the Walmart and I bought an air conditioner, and I emptied out my duffel bag. I put it in my duffel bag and I carried it up to like the 5th floor of the tower in Maryland. And we had the perfect room because our room wasn't open up to anything. It was open to the other dorm. So our window or the window was to the other dorm, so you couldn't see it.
Nice.
And we made sure we got that room every year. Nice. And then eventually my room became the room so that everybody slept in. So there'd be cots or there'd be mattresses on the floor instead of everybody, because 90% of people would go and sleep in the common room. Right. It was the only air conditioned room. And there were kids in there. It was crazy. And everybody's sleeping all over the floor in the common room. People in just a blanket, no mattress. And so my room became like the bunkhouse.
That's awesome.
You had to get sleep because it was 1,000 degrees.
Oh yeah. Well, we got to keep this camp life alive. Those stories are of the past. They're no longer, right? There's no camp anymore. So
That's how like we all met. Me, Doc, Chris Miller, Germ, Andrew Geeson,
Yes.
and Jim Rogowski. We all met at 205, whether it was juniors. I mean, we were all together for 2 weeks, right? It was like, that's how we met. Like you go juniors and then two sessions of seniors.
Yep.
And like, that's what you do for that whole 10 days, 12 days.
Yep.
And you'd have 1 day break. You go juniors for 2 days, 3 days, 4 days. Then you'd have an overnight break till the next day. Then you go from Towson down to Maryland, and you stayed, and then you had 2 sessions at University of Maryland. And halfway through, they made you move. You had to clean out your room. It's like, get out, come back. So
had to lug the air conditioner up and down 95.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. All right, a couple fun ones. We'll wrap this up before I get you home. I know you've already had practice today, so this or that. We're going to go a little Connecticut vibe here because you've obviously been there a really long time and it's home for you now. 95 or the Merit?
They both suck, dude. 95. I like 95 better because you can get off anywhere.
Okay.
And you're hungry, you can get food. If you're thirsty, you can get something to drink. There's Dunkin' Donuts all up and down 95. And if it really sucks, you can get off and just take Route 1.
Okay.
You got to deal with the stoplights and stay out of the left lane in Route 1 because everybody stops. It's like, oh, there's a store, stop, and they go left. And you're like, what just happened? Like, how about a blinker, dude? So, but yeah, I'm not, I don't like the Merit.
All right. There you go. Little tip for everybody.
Let's get Fairfield County. Ugh.
All right, the next one was going to be Yankees or Red Sox, but it sounds like we're already Mets. We're a Mets fan, so that one is just off the table.
Yeah.
But we're gonna replace it. Being a Jets fan, this or that, Herm Edwards or Bill Parcells?
That's a silly question. Like Bill Parcells, actually, like Herm was cool because it was like you tried to win the game. Right. And I thought Herm was very underrated as a coach. I think he had a couple of I mean, that was when Chad Pennington was there. So like they were pretty good. But Bill Parcells changed it all. Awesome. And he was the guy that came in and like made everything, held everybody accountable, brought his guys in, got to AFC Championship game, lost to the Broncos. Like I still think they should have won that game. But like, yeah, Bill Parcells, man.
Awesome. All right.
But I love Herm. I think Herm's the man. I loved him. I thought he was a really good coach too.
He's great on TV when he has those segments. I think he's great. Let's stick in the coaching world. This or that, Gino Auriemma or Dan Hurley?
Gino Auriemma.
Cool. Legend. Yeah. Winning games, still rolling too. Go Huskies.
Great players don't get tired. One of the best quotes I've ever heard. He said it. One of the best speeches I've ever seen. Great players don't get tired.
That's awesome. All right, last two. Taking your wife for a little show. Are we going this or that? Mohegan Sun or Foxwoods?
Mohegan Sun.
Nice. All right, and the last one. I think this is probably the best. This or that. Living in New Haven. Frank Pepe's or Colony Grill?
Frank Pepe's.
Wow. All right.
Colony Grill is more of a Fairfield place.
Really?
It's not really a New Haven place. Yeah, like if you'd say like Sally's or Pepe's.
Okay.
That's a good one.
Okay.
There's literally a place around the corner from my house. It's called John and Maria's. It's in East Haven. And it's like family owned. It's been there forever. Portnoy gave it a 9.5, I think.
Woo.
Like there's 2 places in the town of Brantford, which is the next town over. My wife teaches in the town, right across the street from each other. Marco's and Capone's. They both got like a 7.8 or 7.9. He went to one and was like, we might as well go to that one. And so like I'm a big Portnoy pizza guy. I'm a One Bite Pizza app guy.
All right.
I'm into pizza. You don't get a body like mine by not eating too much pizza. And so I love it. But yeah. Pepe's it's next level, dude. Colony's good too. It's got a great atmosphere, but that's more of Fairfield place, Fairfield, Milford.
Got it.
That's where you go. That's where Colony Grill is.
And what's the one around the corner from you?
John and Maria's.
John and Maria's.
I better get some free pizza for throwing them out there. Free advertising.
We got to get him as a sponsor for the pod too. But
it's so good. The food is places, all the food there is like, I'm lucky. We live in a pretty cool place. Like there's such, it's the different food and the different like things you can do here. It's why we decided to stay in Connecticut, and why we enjoy living here is you're right in the middle of everything. New York City, Boston, sure. Providence, like the whole state of Rhode Island. There's so many cool things in Connecticut. Sure. It's a pretty neat place.
Part of the difference that you guys talked about. Well, Coach, I'm taking up enough of your time. I really appreciate jumping on with us here at the Nothing Near Post Show. Best of luck this weekend against the Quinnipiac Bobcats, another league game, and keep it rolling. And hopefully you put yourselves in a position to repeat. So Nothing Near Post Show is going to be pulling for you all, and thanks again for the time.
Yeah, Max, thanks for thinking of us. I appreciate the time. This was a lot of fun.
Awesome.
Good luck with the podcast.
Thanks, Coach. See you soon.
See ya.
Wrapping things up here. Really appreciate Coach Basti jumping on. Incredible interview. But before we close it, I guess just real quick on Coach Basti. The quote of the entire interview, other than him just talking about why Sacred Heart is so special, and it's so cool to see the emotion come about his guys and what he's building there as a program. And if I'm a recruit, I'm definitely looking at Sacred Heart as a place that I want to go play, not only for the reason that Coach Basti talked about, but Coach Basti's the man, clearly understands what becoming a young man's all about. But his answer, the quote of the whole thing, in my opinion, was, why should we keep the face off? Because it's cool. And I couldn't agree more. But before we wrap things up here, one thing on low to high. Shout out Jackson Eicher of Army. Had a sock trick against North Carolina. Potted 6 in their 1-goal win, 12-11. Shout out to Jackson there. He continues to fill it up. Big Patriot League matchup with Colgate coming for Army this weekend. See if they can keep that momentum going. But that's all we got for this week's show. Nothing Near Post Show. We appreciate you all listening. Until next time, make sure that you never forget rule number 1. As always, nothing near post.